Hello, hello, okay, gente, my people. Thank you for tuning in. This is a different type of post, out of the typical nature of my usual farm stuff and dog stuff and horse stuff and philosophical consciousness exploration stuff. This month, November 2025, marks my 5th year anniversary living here in Parita de Costa Rica, Central Pacific Coast. I'm just walking out of downtown a little bit to the park, Parque Julieta in Centro Parita. Y me gustaría decir, I like to say something about my experience here in Costa Rica specifically, not necessarily about what I do on my land, my work, my passions, but more about a reflection of what I've learned living in Costa Rica, living in a country that's so divergent and different than the United States in so many ways. And I wanted to make this post. I actually wrote something down in my phone about it. Buenas. And it happens to be a very timely subject, as I've learned recently watching some news from the United States and what's been going on up there as far as political shifts and almost sort of a revolution in the consciousness of the United States, which is very pleasant to see, because the United States was becoming a beacon of darkness on planet Earth, which is not how I grew up understanding the country I came from, but it very quickly descended into some of the most negative, horrible aspects of humanity that we've ever seen in multiple generations here on planet Earth. And it's nice to see that things are changing. I'm not really going to comment too much on that. Let me preface this by saying that I am neither a Democrat or a Republican nor an independent. If I were to label myself throughout my lifetime and you were to ask anybody about, my perspective on things, I would call myself for sure an anarchist, in the sense that I don't want anarchy to come to society, but I don't believe in government. I don't think we need government. I think it's an outdated thing, just like kings and queens were a couple hundred years ago, although somehow they've persisted up until modern day times in some countries. But anarchist in the political sense means someone who believes that we as a society, as a species, can operate without governments. We don't need them. And I truly believe that, because I have created a life of true individual sovereignty for myself. I've seen other people do it. I've seen communities do it. And I truly feel, and I've operated a system of economy for myself, that at this point, my life is about 80% clever bartering, in the sense that I exchange something of value that I have to somebody else who has something that I need, and we do a straight up trade. We don't need to pay money. We don't need to work traditional jobs. If I have food that I can give them and they can pay one of my bills for me, that's a deal, and that is barter. If, for example, I'll use my next door neighbor as an example. He has cows. That's his business. He sells milk and cheese to people in the neighborhood. When I first moved into the neighborhood, I was paying money for them because I could not barter anything. But now that I'm growing a ton of food and I have eggs, which his growing family needs, I go over 3 times a week with a bag full or cartons full of eggs, bag full of fruit, and I just leave them on his doorstep. Later that day, I hear somebody hollering at my gate for me. It's my neighbor Pablo, and he gives me a big bottle of milk. He gives me some extra portions of the dinner they made the night before, for lunch that day, breakfast that day. Maybe there's some cheese, maybe there's some fruits. For example, this morning I got a big bottle of milk and I got 6 bananas from his tree, ripe bananas. So this is a system that I feel, we have so many people going to universities now studying economics and studying statistics and studying all different intellectual endeavors that maybe they're not applying to life in any way. Maybe they get out of school studying economics and they go and work in the stock market, which is like a casino game. Ultimately, it's nonsense. It's just a video game for adults to stay entertained and make a little money on. I feel like if we cleverly applied some sort of advanced barter system to our university studies, that these economics students, these people that are going for master's degrees and PhDs in economics, could integrate this and implement this into our society outside of the need of the government. These could be private institutions, these could be publicly funded institutions, these could be nonprofit institutions which receive funding from donations and grants and things like that. I truly believe this because I've seen it happen on the small scale, and like I said, I'm honestly about 80% self-reliant on barter system at this point. I do need a little bit of general traditional income from some types of paying job or selling my fruit trees, but at some point in the next, I would imagine 2 to 5 years, if I'm being honest, I will be 100% living on an intelligent barter system, in the sense that I will not have to pay $1 for anything that I need month to month in my life. I will be receiving compensation in forms other than money that will provide my self-sufficiency and self-reliance in life. Now, I picked up this idea when I was in college taking kinesiology classes, but one of my minors was philosophy, and something I stumbled upon was a actually indigenous South African philosophy called Ubuntu. U-B-U-N-T-U, if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. And what this means in direct translation is I am because we are. Does that make sense to you? Let me say that again. Ubuntu. I am because we are, which means I am successful because we are all successful. I am well fed because we are all well fed. I am wealthy because we are all wealthy. Now that may sound to you a lot like socialism, right? So this is why I thought the timing of this video was appropriate, because here in Costa Rica, the government operates on a democratic socialist system. Now, democratic socialism is a term that is trending right now in the United States because the New York City mayor, Zoran Mamdani, am I saying that correctly? Mamdani, I think is how it's pronounced. Again, I'm not super tuned in. I want to say it correctly because I don't want to offend anybody or insult him, because he seems like a really awesome guy, and it would be wonderful if someday in the future this video would find its way to him as a congratulatory, nice job, dude, you're doing a good thing, and hopefully inspiring a lot of change based on your philosophical foundation that you're bringing to New York City, the biggest city in the world. So I live in a country now, coming from the United States, which is a strictly capitalist country, which means I am because I can take whatever I want from you, to a country that is I am because we are, truly. So for the past 1.5 years, I've been on healthcare here called Caja. I gained my residency, my temporary residency, which I have for 3 years, and then I get permanent residency, which means every month I pay in based on a percentage of my income to the Caja, and that gives me access to the public hospitals, the health clinics. I can get medications, I can get surgeries for a very minimal investment every month that's based on a percentage of my income, which means the more money I make, when my accountant at the end of the year submits how much I've made that year, I will pay more if I'm making more money than I made last year. Now, what's really nice is that if I, for example, don't go to a hospital for 6 months, that money that I've paid helps fund somebody that can't afford to pay into the insurance, because it's a socialized medicine system, right? Democratic socialism, which means in a democracy, we vote for our leaders, just like you would in a capitalist system, right? You vote for the leaders, even though the United States system is completely broken and corrupt at this point, and billionaires can come in and influence votes to, get policies created by their candidate to benefit them and detriment everybody else, which, as Bernie Sanders is going around saying, that's an oligarchy, which is true. It's just like what Russia has going on and what many countries in the world that are super corrupt have going on, and the United States has conformed to that and actually kind of moved downward in the global scale of like what's right and what's good and what's honest and what's fair. And we're seing that manifesting right now. But I'm really grateful to see what the United States has done by electing people like Zoran Mamdani. I hope I'm saying that correctly, because he deserves the respect of having his name said correctly. And he's going to influence the biggest city in the world, the most profitable city in the world, to understand that because I am, we are, which means everybody's paying their fair share to help everybody else, their neighbors. Now, not to get too religious, but let's keep this with philosophy, right? Just life philosophy and doing the right thing. Jesus said, help your neighbor. He didn't say ignore your neighbor. He didn't say steal from your neighbor. He didn't say hoard from your neighbor. He said, help your neighbor, help those in need. And that's what a democratic socialist system does. I am super happy because I see literally poor neighbors of mine that are retired, that don't have pensions, that don't have income, that don't have family that can help them. And I know that they can receive health care because I am paying into that system. And I'm excited to make more money here and to pay more into that system because that means I'm helping more people that can't fend for themselves. And I feel good about that. It feels nice in my soul, in my heart, knowing that karmically I'm doing good for the country that has taken me in and given me so much kindness since I've lived here. Now, it would be wonderful if the United States would open the minds of the citizens to understand that democratic socialism is not communism, it's not fascism, it's not anything of the sort. And I don't know why socialism and communism seem to be like synonymous for people in the United States. Well, maybe I do, because people in the United States are very undereducated when it comes to the mass population. But socialism is not communism. Socialism means those who have the means to help contribute to the system to help those who do not have the means. Communism means all of the money that everybody makes is put together and taken by the leaders, like Putin in Russia, okay? Or Stalin, or Mussolini, or, you know, at this point, Donald Trump and his administration, who are stealing all of the money from everybody and just channeling it to their own personal interests and not contributing to the whole, which is not what I thought the United States was based on. But when it comes down to it, that's what a capitalist system really is. So where I'm recording this right now is the Parque Julieta. You can see awesome. This is an older gentleman who's absolutely on health insurance, probably because the contributions of everybody around us right now. And look at that three-wheeled bike. Now he's riding around this public park, which is well maintained. We have police circulating. We have a fitness park over here. There's a skate park. There's a playground for kids. There's a stage that this guy can skateboard on. And at the same time, people could come and perform their art. This is used for a lot of the public fairs and stuff. And everybody's just hanging. And look, the police are around. So we have support, we have safety, we have fitness, we have wellness, we have community. This is what the United States could be in a democratic socialist system. It's not a bad thing. There's actually nothing negative about it. Now, let me go back to the fact that I am an apolitical person and I don't believe in government. I think we could do this all on our own without the need of implementation of policy or governance or so-called leaders who just want power, because I think that system is completely broken at this point. Even in Costa Rica, people have problems with the president. There's corruption at the highest levels. There was this guy, I'm not going to say his name correctly, but like Celso Gamboa, who was working with the cartels, and he was like the finance minister of Costa Rica, and he just got extradited to the United States based on a warrant from the DEA, I think. Like, there is still corruption, of course, and that's why I think all governments need to be abolished, and we should be able to, as communities, learn to live with each other through this clever barter system. That's why I'm kind of putting this video out there, is because I think that if somebody sees this that's in university studying economics in any country, this should be your thesis for your master's or your PhD, is how we can implement a clever barter system, or let's call it Ubuntu. I am, because we are, into our society as a mass consciousness, because that's the future of how we're going to coexist on this planet and have more equality and have more balance. So I don't really have much else to say other than good job, United States, for making a shift from one of the worst eras that we've ever witnessed in the United States to hopefully one of the most bright and hopeful eras that we're going to see, that's going to lead us into the future, maybe away from big government and corruption into power to the people again, the way that, you know, in the 60s they tried to plant a seed for, and then it got a little kind of broken down over 30-40 years as the baby boomers rose up and focused on capitalism. And now I think this new generation, the Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Zers, the millennials, are starting to see that those systems were completely broken, and we can go back to an intelligent tribalism, in the sense that we can all support each other as a community, and we can all raise the kids together, and we can all provide for the safety of our neighbors and you know, those that can't provide for themselves. We should all be helping everybody altruistically. And I guess that's how I'll end this, is this is a form of biological altruism that's manifesting itself on the massive scale. And we see this in nature. Like, if there's a baby gazelle or a baby monkey that's left in the jungle alone, or its parent was killed somehow, like, you'll see jaguars and lions, they're predators, taking care of these animals so that they can survive. That's something called biological altruism. If you haven't heard of this, look it up. This is a real thing. Like, we can take care of each other. We don't need to be told to help somebody. We can do this by our nature itself. We are genetically programmed to do this. So for those of you who might be misunderstanding what democratic socialism is, I want you to look up the system in Costa Rica, because it works. I want you to pay attention to what Zoran is doing in New York City in the coming months and years, because it's going to benefit everybody. And I know people are scared about something new, and a lot of people are so concrete in their consciousness that they don't like learning new things. Buenos dias. That it's very important that we learn new things and grow and, you know, adapt to new systems that work when the other systems are completely broken down. So thank you guys for tuning in, and if you have any questions or comments about this, just hit them up in the comments. Like, this is a topic that we should be discussing and we should be advancing our consciousness with, and I really wanted to provide some insight and some reflection, because I'm really proud and grateful to be a part of this society now, and a contributing part of this society, knowing that it's a system that is not necessarily perfect, but it's way better than what I've seen in any other country in the world. And I think that this democratic socialism is going to sweep across the planet and then eventually lead to some type of Ubuntu. And I'm just going to keep using that word because that describes the way we should be as a species, is I am because we are. So for example, if I was Elon Musk and I had $1 trillion, I would literally, at least for the country that I was a part of, whether it's Costa Rica or the United States, provide some type of universal income to every citizen in the country and ask for them to return some help, whether it's for me or for my companies or just general. Like, if I'm sending you $2,000 a month, every month for the rest of your life, please go out and clean up the streets, clean up garbage, help old ladies cross the street, you know, volunteer at a homeless shelter, make food for people, grow food for people, use that money to invest in yourself, in your property, in your land, cultivate something that you can provide value to our society with. But, you know, unfortunately we live in this system where the people making the most money care the least about the rest of us. And I'm hoping that starts to change too, because I am because we are. Ubuntu. I love you all. Thank you.